Township Committee on May 14th is called to order. Can you please read the public notice?
Adequate notice of this meeting was given in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act by mailing the schedule of the Township Committee to the Express Times and North Star Ledger newspaper, posting a copy on the Township Bulletin Board and filing a copy of the Township Clerk.
Will you please join me in a salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Perez. Siegel. Here. Miliani. Here. Kalari. Torriello.
Here. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to continue our discussions regarding the 2012 municipal budget. And I think at this time, I'm going to move the public comment period first, and we can open up for public comment. We can have a motion.
Make a motion. Second.
Okay. Anyone wishing to make public comment, please come up to the podium that's not set up. And all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishing to make public comment? Okay, motion to close public comment, seeing none.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And we'll table the authorization to pay bills until Thursday's meeting, so that leaves the one item on the agenda, which is the budget. Is that the moving through things?
Great.
You have any goodies for us?
Yes.
I knew you would.
Today was a very exciting turn of events. Kim helped me track down the amount of actual school taxes, and county, I kind of estimated on still. But I recalculated the reserve for uncollected taxes, and it turns out that I could have been a little less conservative in my calculation. So we saved over 100 and some thousand on that.
Oh, wonderful.
And also, Chief turned in a copy of that wonderful letter for
The grant?
Safe and Secure. It's going to say Safe something for $30,000 for 2012, and that has been accounted for in the budget. And also updated was the amount of delinquent taxes. We had spoken briefly about that last time. That the annual financial statement said we could go up to 303, and I had made the suggestion that 275 would still be conservative, but appropriate increase from the 250. So that brought us, last time we were at, I think, 6.2 cents, 6.7 cents, and now we're at 2.1. So it's still not great, but it's a lot better than the position we were in last time.
So you changed the reserve for uncollected taxes by 100,000, right?
Yeah.
So that gives us, that closes the gap by 100 on that one.
Right. It was 625. It's now down to 490,000. That's on the very final page, page 11.
But the anticipated amount this year is $100,000 less that you took into consideration in the budget, or is that?
It's actually a decent amount less. It's the difference between 625 and 490 plus 25 plus 30, so it's 115,000.
Got it.
So the gap that we're looking at right now, the last time when we were closed was 291. Now it's how much?
131, 385. It's on the bottom of your top page, the very bottom.
I was looking at the numbers. Did you have something that you wanted to add before?
Nope, no.
Because I do want you to go through, I want to verify each line item in terms of, what we have allocated, what was used last year, and to see wherever we can take from to reduce. And I've looked at the legal line item budget, particularly the labor, and I think it's grossly overstated in terms of the numbers. And I think that line item that's 150, in my mind, should be somewhere more in the order of like $75,000 or $80,000.
Keep in mind that you've already spent a decent amount of legal already. Have you looked at your?
But just for labor?
This is just the labor line.
Not necessarily for labor,
Yeah.
but your other ones, you spent more than
I understand, then maybe we should be adjusting those numbers.
Okay.
But that's the general fund. The
Right.
general would be the planning board drill and all that, but this is,
Well, planning board would be under planning board, so planning and zoning have their own legal expense. But under your municipal legal, that's kind of a catch-all for all the other legal
right.
things.
So that's for it and any other legal.
Yeah, there's several attorneys that get into that.
And do we know yet, do we know what the quarterly percentage was?
No, I
You
can
guys
look
are
it
ready
up.
if you want. It's up to you.
For the labor.
For
just the
labor
labor.
and what the difference
Yeah.
is between other legal matters.
Yeah, right, because I'm dealing with just the labor line item. That, in my mind, is just, it's too much.
Yeah, I had looked at that as well, thought it was too high. Actually, the total number of 230 I thought was too high.
Okay, do you want me to print now a detail for labor? And that'll
Yes.
be- Or not
Okay.
for labor, but for all of legal?
Why not?
See what-
Yeah, why not? It couldn't hurt. Thanks.
Mhm.
Well, then you take, let's just say, I just
And
can't do
that's not to
somebody.
mention what we've discovered.
But you see,
We can't use that,
I'm
right?
keeping that compartmentalized.
Right. Mhm.
That's separate.
Absolutely.
That just makes it that much better.
It does make it better.
Who's the first one? 131. 0.69. That would mean, if we can get it into any kind of, that would mean we're short 56. 385,
So how much did we use, Justin, reducing the legal by how much? What was that?
Just that one line
Just
item.
labor.
Yeah,
Just the
labor, is
labor.
that how much though?
By 50%.
Oh, 50%, okay, so down to 75.
I think so.
Mhm.
I really do.
Which is basically what our homework, what we did for our homework. Did the other departments give her anything?
I don't think anybody did. Yeah.
So no one else had any,
No, so we'll do it according.
yep.
Well, actually, I mean, I made some notes here where I thought we could,
Oh.
one was the reserve for uncollected taxes, I thought was too high, so we've already
Address
adjusted
that.
that. To be honest, I think we should be able to get another 25. I don't think we should be budgeting 45 for the auditor. I think we should hold him to his contract and that last one. So we gained 25,000 right there. He bid 10% less than last year's auditor. So we can, if we take off another 25, we're down basically.
He did make a, he did say he was going to make a request, given the amount of extra work that was done. And I don't think something additional is unreasonable in light of all
We
of
did it
the
for
work
Swisher.
that was done.
Yep.
He had to redo a lot of, I don't care, I don't even want, I don't care what was done in the past. I'm just talking about this year. This year, he did a lot of extra work and had to do a lot of work to close out the book so we can even get to this point, which is why we're discussing it
I
in
think we should
May as
make sure,
opposed
I
to
think we
April.
should at least put it out, hold it on the side in case we need it. So we have it as a negotiator. And then the other, well, I could ask, so the surplus, amount, you reduced the surplus. Do you know how much surplus we generated last year?
How much was generated? Now I can tell you the balance 1231. That was
Now, what am I looking at? This one is the
592, 222.
So 592, what was that?
222.
That's
on the bottom
22.
of the revenue pages.
Right.
So do we know why we reduced the surplus then to 475 from 575?
Because if you only have 575, using $473,000 is a huge amount to use. Normally, you wouldn't want to use more than half of your surplus. That's a huge part of your surplus to use.
We're just looking at the legal. The 103,204.71, do you know what that is?
That's the overall balance for everything. The
Okay.
It's not the general fund then, that municipal one is not the general fund.
yeah, there's really not a general fund.
Because there's a general general legal on here. It's
Mhm.
general, so.
Okay. That would be everything other than labor, pretty much.
Okay.
That would be your tax appeal, your miscellaneous labor, and all your litigation, all of your.
It would be everything but the labor. So if we reduce the labor by 75,
But the general seems to be too low.
too low.
Definitely.
Do you have last year's numbers?
In the column next to it, the 2011 actual.
Okay, so in the legal services in 2011 was 269,523.13.
Right, that's what was spent in 2011.
Okay.
It's right next to the,
Oh, I was looking over on the wrong
Yeah.
sheet. I see. Oh, yeah, okay, right.
There's been I don't know if it's appropriate to call it significant, but a decent amount of money spent for the asphalt plant. And there's still some ongoing litigation that invoices are coming in.
I noticed this has gone up substantially since. Okay, so we have that on the table to discuss and where we're going to go with it. Okay.
What's miscellaneous?
It's casual.
But why is that even in there? What's the difference between miscellaneous and general?
Probably none, but the category existed previously, so I maintained it.
Hmm.
They can all be lumped into
I
general,
think-
or I
yeah.
can break it out in more detail for litigation and whatever category sub-accounts you'd like.
Okay, but on here, when we're talking about this 103 to a 471, we have planning board involved in that, right? We have the zoning board involved.
The two amounts, the small amounts, the
Yeah.
660 and the 783, those were probably misclassified. The budget account really shouldn't be set up like that. Those should be specifically under
Okay,
the
okay, that's
planning
That's
board.
great.
that makes me understand better, yes. Okay. All right, that's a good starting point. Okay, let's. So the question, did you get any comments from?
Feedback as to
Yeah.
what to cut? No, I haven't heard anything.
Maybe what we have to do is,
Leave that alone. We have to leave that alone.
Why?
Look at other, because we are only halfway through the year in the general fund. We don't know what's gonna happen. We may be able to shave maybe
this is what
25
we
off.
spent so far.
But, yeah. But we may be able to shave 25 off. We only have 75 for saving from the general. So 75.
Mhm.
And that's what this number represents without these two other items in here because they're misclassified. So this would entail that
Yeah,
it
but what
would.
I'm saying is maybe this needs to go to
Yeah, exactly.
100,
Yeah.
okay?
Mhm.
And you roll this in,
Yeah.
and then instead of
take-
saving 75, you take 50.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we have to, you
So
know,
it will
we
be
have to think
50.
about that, yeah.
so we're in an 86.3 gap.
Because you just added,
Yeah, took the 131 minus the 50.
as a, right,
As the
correct,
savings on
right,
the labor,
Right.
the legal.
right. I think that's
gap is
probably, I think that's more realistic
So
than
the
what,
gap is 86.3,
right, that's where we, that's, agreed.
which would be what, penny and a half? Or, no, yeah.
Because they're
close to
testing
that.
cycles.
Pretty much. Yeah.
So we need to find 86,000 more.
Is it just an official change?
Was it an official change?
Yeah, the labor then is gonna go to.
Well, we're just
going through everything
We're going through
first.
everything, we're just working that, we're thinking that maybe the labor,
We're thinking we would just.
25 of the 75, I think we have to add back to the general. So instead of it being a $75,000 reduction, savings, it would be probably a 50,000.
Okay, you see the total that was spent year to date.
Yeah,
so far.
and that's why I'm saying, hold off on making that cut, let's look at other things first, because we don't know where we're gonna be, especially with,
The litigation you really can't control, but
you know,
other
and
things
we know
you
that
can.
the one litigation, about farmland is more than we anticipated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, where else can we?
Well, we've cut a lot out of the things that we were focused on, so just, let's leave that for a question mark. And then,
Your add back items I do put in as well, fire and I think the squad was the other one.
you add back those?
Yeah,
Good.
I
Yeah,
did
we
know
made
that.
those changes last time. What did we do? We added back in,
Like 5,000 or something, I think, on the police or something.
Couple
on the,
$1,000, yeah.
on
First
the
aid
fire.
went from 31.5 back up to 35, and, let's see what fire is.
well, yeah. First aid from 31.5 to 35.
Do you have an anticipated time frame as to when we'll get some, I guess, clarity on that 94,000, I'm gonna call it the driveway funds?
We did make a little progress on that today. There was a lot of research going on in the engineer's office today to try and go back through 15 years worth of information.
I mean, I guess what I'm asking is this a, is this going down a road of false hope, or do you think this is, it's, no, okay, so this is,
I don't think, but I shouldn't be the one making that, voicing that opinion.
But you're the closest one to it, Mike.
Well,
so-
yeah, but I don't know what
I know.
prior CFOs did with this money.
Well, and that's.
Other than comments that were made over the course of the past, well, of course, over numerous years. This is in one of my numerous emails today. Last meeting, we talked about this $93,000, and I was gonna go back and just develop a spreadsheet of all our billings to those accounts. Since, of course, the onset of Finelli Consulting, which goes back to 2001. Well, we've changed the county databases a couple times during that period of time, and it turns out that unfortunately, a couple of the years of data happens to be missing, gone. It's can't find it. So, beyond that was a little disturbing in its own right, but what we can do, and this is what I was going to propose, why I didn't want to email because it's going to take too long. We can go into our correspondence electronic files and tell you, even going back to the French and Perot days. French and Perot was my previous employer, Finelli Consulting. And I can give you a number of driveways that applications were made and dollars were posted, basically from 96 to current. Now, the reality is, you just do the math, it's about, it's a ridiculous number. It's over $250,000. I mean, just Greenwich Chase Wind and Farm is 810 units. Then you have, I mean, the list goes on and on. Everybody knows developments. Okay, so what if we took in $250,000 hypothetically over that long period of time? That's what I can tell you. Unfortunately, I can't tell you what was built, except for a few years. But those years aren't the real busy years. The real busy years were the French and Perot era, which I obviously can't access. So I don't know how much help that's gonna be. But the bottom line is, I mean, where else could it be?
And the fact that it's all compiled into a file folder called the Wachovia account is strange unto itself.
Right.
Okay.
I just
Well,
want
we
to
need
know.
to talk to the auditor.
Yeah, and we're gonna need some definitive timeframes as to when this can be resolved, because I don't know that we can hold up this process of formulating the budget. I mean, this would be a great way of resolving these issues.
It would close the gap,
It
totally.
would close the gap totally. It would.
I know that, but we don't have a resolution to that right now. It's just like the other things that we found. You know, that will not be able to be part of anything until next year.
But, you know,
As we go
we'll
along.
continue with that, and then, next year, I'm confident that if we can get resolution to these, some $600,000 that you've identified as, potential.
Is that the escrow accounts? What are we
Yeah.
talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's about
Yeah.
93,000 in an old Wachovia account. That's what the account is entitled. And then there's a little over 400,000 that is in the performance bonds that Mike had a theory on it as well. That it was a cash portion of the performance bond, and that they would have been repaid to the contractor. Because very rarely do developers not come to collect their bonds when their performance time is up.
Which is
Once
what
that
we've done.
period is up, they want that money back, and as well as the cash portion. And if that would have been paid back, it could have been paid in error out of the current fund, out of general taxation, and not replenished from
Does
the
Ronnie have a
escrow.
record of those payments?
We should.
You're saying we don't?
I'm waiting for copies of resolutions. Every time an escrow account or a bond would have been released, there should have been a resolution to close the escrow account. And Kim is in the process of researching all that for 15 years or so.
If I have a degree of confidence about this driveway permit issue,
You have a degree of
I've got a
confidence about the
much greater degree
I
of
know.
confidence about this.
I know, and it's
I dealt with those guys on a daily basis, and trust me, they would call me, Mike, where's my check? Mike, where's my check? Mike, where's my check?
I have no doubt.
So if we are showing, that was very interesting.
Enlightening.
When I saw those numbers, that could be the only explanation.
It's just, it's a
Another
good
one
and
of those
bad thing. It's a
things.
good thing that it's come to light now, through our efforts to really get a handle on our finances, really, I think for the first time, in terms of really grasping it. And we're seeing that through these carelessness in the past, we're at a position right now where there's a potential that we have up to $600,000, more than we think we may have, but we can't realize that yet, and it's frustrating.
And we're talking about escrow accounts that have been in place for
For
15,
years,
16 years?
for years.
Well, they've been sitting there for 15,
Yeah.
16 years, yes. And it was something that we targeted to resolve, and it never got resolved.
So we'll have to, I think that is a longer term project.
And do we think we're going to have any kind of information before Thursday?
That will be up to Kim, how fast she can get the resolutions.
All right. All right, let's.
That's what you need for the next step.
But it sounds like the driveway stuff you're very confident with. Sounds like, and that's 90-some thousand? So what are we waiting for? Why wouldn't we be able to use that money for
we
this
need
close this gap?
we need
We need
approval from the
approval.
order.
We can't just-
We can't do it on our own. Well,
Well,
we can,
he has to approve
we
it.
can ask for that, but the auditor, if the auditor says no, it's a done deal.
So did anybody ask the auditor
Yes,
yet?
they did.
Yeah, that's in process. The thing is, I'm gonna have to supply him at least a little bit of documentation
Mhm.
about, this is what was billed, we believe that this was paid out of, I have to give him some kind of numerical reference so that there's something to back up our opinion. It's not just, we need the money, so we
Exactly.
There has to be.
There is like, there has to be
Justification
proof.
for it.
There's no other way to do it other than to show the proof, because we
Or
can't
it's
just, it's statutory stuff.
So Mike, you figured out based upon how many homes have been built and driveways and so forth, that it would pretty much equate to the 90-some thousand.
No, it
No,
equates to a
it
quarter of a
equates to like a
million.
quarter of a million.
Okay.
Now, of course, the way it should have worked is out of that $250,000 over 15 plus years, we should have been paid. Because if you get $200 per driveway and we bill 100, well, there's 100 left over. We bill 175, there's 25 left over. Some went over, depending on the complexity of the driveway and so forth. So, I mean, each one had its own total. That's what
makes
you're
it
never
almost
going to be,
difficult to
unless
open
somebody
up.
goes into the bills over since day one and tracks every, that would be quite the undertaking.
So
But
where did the 90-some thousand come from that you were referencing?
well,
What is that number?
because
It's in an account.
I would say, let's say an average driveway takes between 125 and 150 bucks to do. That leaves $50 to $75 of excess. You do 75 times the number of houses, and you're actually over 100,000 bucks when you start adding it, adding this in and adding that in. So
It's close.
So
the
you
order of
could have-
magnitude seems to make sense.
You could have been paid out of the general fund, and the monies were in escrow
Yeah.
accounts, and the escrow accounts were never, it should have been paid out of escrow. So maybe to the tune of $93,000 worth. Could seem reasonable based on $250,000 in actual billing.
Well, because I don't think the CFOs at that time, to be honest, wanted to set up
Right.
an escrow account for every, there were thousands of driveways that went.
And the escrows were never on
Yeah.
computer, never,
Right,
until
so,
what we're doing now.
My question is this, Lorraine, in your conversation with the auditor, has he indicated to you what type of information he's going to need or he's looking for? Do you have an idea of what
Yeah, I have a basic concept of what he's looking for.
and is it something that we can effort and provide him, or has his request alone made this an impossible task?
No, it's
Okay.
it's definitely possible.
And is the resolutions that we need?
The resolutions are for the performance bonds, or the performance.
That's for that's for the 600, okay. Is this a matter that we can bring resolution to in days, or is this
I would
a
hope
weeks
so.
or
It depends
months?
how quickly Bob will get back to me. But we should know at least about the 93 for Thursday.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Then my recommendation would be that we wait and see the answer to that first before we make any other decisions, because that will, yeah. And then, I mean, do you disagree with that?
Oh, I think we should try and attempt to go through the rest of this and look at areas that we can put some caps on and try and stay within the budget by actually, watching the spending. And I think that we should be looking at that as well. We shouldn't
Okay.
just rely on the 93 grand to save us here. We should be
That's
looking
true.
at cutting our overall expenses and putting caps on things. Because there's just not a pocketbook here, and next year we're gonna be in the same situation.
Yes, we
if
will.
don't resolve this.
That's true, because this is a one-time
And this is a
thing.
one-time cash infusion.
Mhm. It's true. Well, where do you want to start?
Well, we went through the actual, Lorraine, did you hand out the 30,000 to 27,000 savings?
No.
Based on what we've resolved for the finance department, tax collector, and help for Kim? Thank you. Just put the date on the top of this, please, on the top of your,
Don't miss anything.
I was gonna put 1957. Good. So do you want to explain this, Lorraine, a little bit, please?
Yeah, I looked into just this afternoon the actual dollar for savings, so that we can have a very exact and precise look at what your savings would be or should be realized from the shared service for myself. In the first column, that's your expenditures based on what the shared service agreement was
Mhm.
and your current staffing as it exists now with a, you have to excuse the titles, I used a descriptive title as opposed to their legal title. So,
Exactly.
I used the purchasing clerk for the person that is doing most of the purchasing, the data entry.
Just the data entry, which actually is what the auditor recommended, that a separate person from issuing the checks be entering the information.
Right.
Okay.
And then following all the purchase orders through the system, so. And for the tax collector, I use the term, the tax input clerk, that's for the person that was hired to do the deposits, prepare the deposits, process all the payments, and have the inquiry look up with general, not tax liens or anything, but with general inquiries.
And I also recognize that prior to, we did not have this increase in the payroll system. We did this recently, transferred over to this payroll system at your recommendation. So this increase was basically to streamline what your office is doing. And to be able to double check and go back and make sure we had everything from year to date and all the things that we talked about.
Right, the primary increase for that is for the pension filing and the third-party payments.
Pension filing?
They're responsible,
Right.
The new payroll vendor is responsible for all the third-party payments. Instead of the payroll coming in and we having to cut 6 checks, they're all now processed by the payroll company.
And I noticed on the last issuance of bills for purchase orders that you submitted to us, you also had everything that was on one purchase order for every billing cycle, so that everybody who was to be paid monthly, quarterly, blah, 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 would all be on one purchase order, and we had a total amount encumbered that we knew that we had to pay.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
thank you.
I refer to that as a blanket order. I'm not sure what
Exactly.
other people will call it, but that's for any recurring
Much
Yeah.
more,
flat fee.
Right.
much more
It's
efficient.
rather than having
But yeah, that way it just
same
has to
month
get
after month,
circulated
yeah.
once, and like you said, the total amount for the year is encumbered. We know we're gonna have that expense.
Exactly.
And it's recurring. It just saves on paperwork and time. And,
Sure.
the other information that's on here is for your sewer, your inputting clerk. I didn't know what to put in for sewer collection, so I just put that in. That may not be the amount that you'd be willing to pay for that service.
Yeah, we had less amount, I think. A total of, did the total come to like between $16,000 and $20,000 for the 2 temporary people?
That I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
So all of those departments at the current staffing levels, plus the amount for the sewer collector, which again was not discussed, is right around 82. The previous costs for the prior individuals that held those positions, along with the pension costs, and all of the data entry that was previously done by someone else, was a total of 109. So your actual savings that you would realize this year would be 27.
Well, not really if we're paying you an extra $7,500. So
Right.
the savings is actually,
Would be less.
yeah, it's 19,000, not 27.
If we decided to do that. And
Yeah,
if it
that-
was related to anything specific, it could come out of a different budget. If it was related to the COA fund, it would
Right.
come out of COA. If it's related to
Right.
sewer, it would come out of sewer, all depending upon.
It's still a
where.
cost.
Oh,
You
no
have to
doubt
capture
about
the
it.
cost.
No doubt about it,
Okay.
except this is a cost that we already expended last year and have to replenish because someone else has to come back and do the work.
I don't understand what you just said. Can you just explain what you just said?
Well, this work that may have to do is in addition because last year they didn't do some of the things that needed to be done.
Right, so we have to pay her
We have to pay her more money.
Well,
to do what we already paid someone else to
Well-
do that they didn't do it.
I would just say, I think a lot of the 7,500 that you're referring to is because you didn't have someone for several months doing the finance
Now,
work.
all this research and all these things that she's been doing
Well,
has
that's-
nothing to do with the,
I agree,
has
Wayne,
nothing to
but
do
you're
with
talking
the escrow
about,
accounts
but you're
that have
talking
never
about
been
15,
filed.
17 years worth of issues of escrow accounts.
And the reason
not
why
just in
we
the last year or
changed in
two.
2008 or 2009 to this CFO and to this auditor was to get this done, and it was never done.
Were you talking about our last CFO?
Yep. And the last auditor. This was to fix this, and it never got fixed. And here we're finding $600,000 in something that we didn't know about.
Well, Layton, you were on the finance committee.
So were you, Tanya.
Look,
There you go again.
No,
Let's
no.
stop with the
I'm
politicking.
not stopping with,
And
I
the
want,
fact
The
remains,
fact is,
the record is
$7,500 is nothing
that there
compared
was
to what we've been
uh,
dealing with.
financial mismanagement that is being corrected, and moving forward, we're going to straighten it out.
okay.
And
I just want to go on the
we-
record one more time. And we've done this, you've been on this theme, meeting after meeting after meeting. All I want to say is, the financial mismanagement that you're referring to is distorted, and I don't want to hear any more that I'm politicizing anything. It is distorted information, and I would really ask that the two of you stop saying financial mismanagement,
Well,
because it
when you
wasn't.
have
Well, wait a
hired
minute,
someone.
no, it's not us saying it. The auditor's report that's on our township webpage says gross mismanagement. That's the auditor's findings. That has been referred to the state. So it is not my findings, it's the auditor's findings.
Okay, but.
So
but
I'm going to
again-
rely upon the auditor and the specific
You-
facts that are set forth in that report. You've
So you
set
go
forth
ahead-
no
so go
facts
ahead and-
to show where the auditor's is
Go ahead and rely, you
incorrect.
can rely on your facts, and what I'm gonna rely on is the fact sheet that, again, that we talked about last meeting, that you and Elaine put together,
Elaine
talking
didn't
that the
have anything to
savings
do with
was
it.
going to be, what was that?
Elaine didn't have anything to do with that fact sheet.
Who put the fact sheet together?
That one I did.
Okay, so Joe, it was presented by the two of you,
It
okay?
wasn't presented by me because I
Said that
didn't
we had a
see it
savings of
beforehand.
$83,000
I didn't even
over
see
2
it
years.
beforehand. So
Now we're
correct
saying
yourself
we have a
without saying
savings
it.
of over a year of 27,000, and it's actually 19,000. So,
That's if we authorize this additional
I just want,
7,500.
we're talking about wanting to make sure that we have the facts straight, I'm just trying to get.
Well,
Exactly.
in the spirit of getting the facts straight, again, when that was put together, we had no idea that we had complete incompetence from the former CFO and treasurer. We were
Well,
not
I-
aware that we were paying a salary for a job that
Well, I
they
don't
didn't
agree.
do.
We can
I
disagree on
understand
this.
you don't agree.
We can
Again,
disagree.
you keep saying you disagree, but you have no facts to put forth to anyone. I am relying on a comprehensive report that was prepared by the auditor that is on our township
And I can
webpage.
show
Again,
you-
let me
and I can
finish.
show you
Let
audit
me-
reports
let
from
me
prior
finish.
years
Let me finish.
showing you the
Let
same
me
thing.
finish. You are just moving your lips without offering anything. I am
Your
telling
lips are the
you,
lips that-
I am
that are
telling
moving.
you that we have an auditor's report that has been filed, that has been submitted, that says, and you have a CFO who's in the room right here, that has told you time and again, but you don't want to listen to her, that when she came to Greenwich, she found things that were not up to standard and has had to put in extra effort. So if you're calling me a liar, you're calling our CFO a liar. So she has reported to the township committee of all of the extra work that she has done. Now in January, I assumed that since we had a finance department last year, that you and Bruce had overseen that when the taxpayer money was being spent, that the employee was actually doing the job. And I relied
They were.
upon that.
They were.
Well, actually, Lorraine had to do a lot of extra work because things were not done. And to that, I'm
So,
sorry.
Are you finished?
No, I'm not finished.
Okay,
So
when
to
you're
that,
finished, I'd
I'm
like to-
sorry that you are somehow troubled by the fact that we are working diligently to correct the situation. And, you know, you can continue to politic, you can continue to make whatever statements that you feel you need to defend the past. I'm less interested in that. I'm more interested in making sure that we got our fiscal house in order, and we're going to do it this year. We're going to move in a direction that is going to ensure that we have protocols in place, and that when we are ever in a situation, and we're not going to be there this year, but if there's ever going to be a future tax increase, what I don't want is like you last year doing an improper emergency appropriation, grabbing money that we now know we've got $600,000 in this account, we've got $93,000 over there. If you had just managed your affairs properly and actually determined what we had and what we needed, you wouldn't have just run to go borrow more money from the taxpayer. And I would ask you to be a little bit more sensitive moving forward and be mindful. It's not our money. It's the township taxpayers' money. And we need to be very, very responsible when we're spending it.
So Joe, let me respond. You're saying you don't want to go over the past, and I completely agree. I don't think we should be going back in the past. But everything that you're bringing up It's past stuff, okay? I think we need to focus on the budget. The only thing that I'm saying is that you're talking about the taxpayers being the forefront of where we need to go, and I absolutely agree. What I'm just saying is, you talked about a savings, we're not getting that savings, and I think it's important to go on the record to make sure the taxpayers know what they're getting, okay? That's what I'm saying. And what you said in January and what you said in February, as we were making these changes, is not what we're saying now as far as the cost of the finance department. That's the only thing I'm saying. And I'm not finished, thank you. And I haven't heard Lorraine say all these messes that she's done. In fact, I would say, and I will still go on record to say that our financial administrator and tax collector worked very hard and did an outstanding job, and I would say our CFO did the same. So let's leave it at that. No more discussion on this, but I did want to put it out there that the savings that you're claiming is not the real savings.
And I will go on the record now for saying, in the actual, what Joe did in 2012, the beginning of this year, was with the hope that we were going to be able to downsize. With the things that have happened, we have, over the next 2 years, saving $44,000, Tanya. We are not taking in that 75 right now to discuss with Lorraine. This has not been approved yet, and the fact is that 12840 is the amount recovered from making the changes per year.
Okay, well, I don't think you downsized when you laid off one employee and hired two back.
Well,
that's not downsizing to me.
Well, Tanya, you're looking at it right. It's remarkable that I'm not going to apologize to the taxpayer for saving them $27,000 a
Say
year.
the correct amount. It's $19,000, which is a
No,
good savings.
It's
$19,000 is good savings.
It's 128.40, and I'm not going to apologize. That's savings off of your operation from last year. So I'm not going to apologize for saving the taxpayer money and using a little bit of ingenuity
the
in
$7,500
creating
Lorraine
a
is
cross.
still in the current updated budget.
it is.
It's right there. So if we weren't going to pay Lorraine that amount, it would be taken out.
We haven't approved it yet.
So we're playing semantics, but that's okay.
No, you're playing semantics. I don't play
I think
anything. I
Lorraine
fall
should
straight.
be. If she worked the extra hours, I believe Lorraine should be paid for it. Okay? I'm right there. I think she should be paid for her work.
Okay, so can we move on now, please?
Please.
And let's get back to the business.
All right, where are we? We added into the volunteer squad, we added that back in to both the fire and the rescue. So it's at 75,000.
Oh, where are you?
Page 5.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right.
Engineering we reduced, historical we did what we needed to do.
Kim, did you meet with the insurance guy?
Not yet, no.
I thought that was scheduled for last week. What happened?
It was scheduled for this week.
Oh, okay.
This week. However, I have to be honest, Joe, I have a deadline now with COA, and you saw the
It
email.
has to come first.
I have to go all the way back to 2008 and do all the financials back with COA.
Mm-hmm.
This is a huge undertaking that needs to be done.
With Beth?
Huh?
With Beth? Beth or Steve?
Neither. With Lorraine.
Oh, okay.
It's all the financial things, and I need to go back and redo the trust fund monitoring reports. And I think they gave me, I think it was to 25th of May. So, I mean, I'll get the stuff together from him, but I'm not going to be able to sit down and, you know, go through. I mean, he can look comparable to what we have.
I think if you could do that and not hold his hand, I'm fine with that. I would
Okay.
like it there not to be any further delay. If you could just segregate all of the information for
Okay.
him to take a look at and then
Okay,
let him do his
review,
thing.
yeah.
And you tell him when he comes, I don't have time for you.
Okay.
If you have any questions, put him in an email
Okay.
and then you'll address them when you can. But at least he can get started in reviewing. If you can do that, that would be great.
That's fine.
And if you don't have time to babysit or hold hand, that's fine. But I would like him to get started to see where there can be additional, if there are potential savings anywhere
Because
there.
I have that, and I have, I just got from the state, I have the Oprah Records Council. Yeah, they just got it.
Have I seen it?
I mean, this is $450,000.
What is it?
The complaint for the personnel record that we discussed before.
Oh, yeah, oh,
We
yeah.
still said we could do mediation of
Oh,
data.
send it to me.
Versus the thing, so I talked about it today.
Right, I haven't seen it,
So,
so.
okay. That's a huge project, and I have 5 business days to complete it.
Can that COA stuff, when do I have to have that to you?
The COA, we'll work on that. We have to go through, I'm gonna have Mary Ann pull bills.
How did this get up
I
to
have
8
that
something?
whole
I
stack
thought this
out,
was 7
still on my
something.
desk in there. That's the stuff that you had one.
30,000 higher.
Go through, right?
Yeah,
It has-
to
it
do
has,
that.
um,
Well,
year
they're
by
saying,
year.
yeah, because they're saying it's a $33,000 discrepancy between the system and,
Okay, that's when you printed all the detailed reports. Okay. So if I do
but
that.
all of 2008, 9, and 10 are
Yeah, I
all
thought this was 7 something.
insurance details.
Okay, Lorraine, on the police, we talked about the police. We talked about the police salary contractual. How did that jump from 7 something that you had last time?
7 something?
It
Yeah.
was 794, 923, 40
For the total?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
for contractual.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
It's about 30,000 higher.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, well, I separated the 30 below it, 826, then I put the minus 30 for the safe and secure, and then put the grant in the back. The chief gave me that letter, so there's an offset in the revenue and an offset in your grant appropriation, but I put minus 30 there so that you could see the direct impact
Okay.
on
Oh, I
your
see.
police budget.
Last
So-
time it was 988, this time it's 958, so the 30 is reflected.
Yeah, but
in
the
that
contractual
number.
826 was what was 749 or whatever.
It was probably lumped together before.
Okay.
I separated
So
the
you
30
broke it
out.
down
so-
further.
Yeah, just so you could see the direct impact that savings the grant would have.
And how much time do we have left on the leases that we have to pay? On the vehicles, the one that was destroyed last year totaled, and then the other one that was purchased?
I don't know, I don't have the lease copies, do you know?
We're paying a lease payment on a car that we don't use.
No.
No.
Now, the lease payment, I believe it's 3 years total. Last year is $1. No, a car was totaled last year, and we purchased the replacement for the total, and then there was another one in the budget for a second car.
Oh,
Do you
okay.
remember when that was totaled? Because I don't remember hearing about it.
Yeah, it was, I could get you the exact date, but it was probably around February or March,
February?
because it was a snowstorm
Okay.
that happened in the beginning of the year, but it took that long. Once we ordered it,
Yeah, I
it was
know.
approved, it
Yeah.
took 9
Yeah.
months to get it in.
And that's why we got the bill for the new car when it was approved in 2011.
Correct.
Right, okay.
Why is there nothing on postage?
His postage is coming out of a different fund now.
Oh,
It's
It's
not
all
all,
moved up to administration.
yeah.
okay.
And the part-time help for the road repair is just for snow?
Yes. Snow removal.
Overtime, 21,000.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm not sure what that is, but maybe Tammy.
Well, I think some of it is the community day, overtime for community day, right? Doesn't the DPW submit overtime then for the hours that they put in preparation for community day and then all the cleanup work?
Mhm.
And when someone's on vacation, requires additional hours.
Well, let's break it out and find out how much the overtime is for Community Day, and let's reduce the cost for Community Day for overtime. We'll put a total on it, and that's gonna be it, because we can. No, we'll put a cap on it and see how much time we have to do, and we'll have to figure it out a different way.
And we'll get some volunteers.
We'll get some
Boy
volunteers
Scouts,
to do
whatever.
some stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, they already get volunteers, children, community service and so forth to help
Well, we're gonna have
set up and
to,
break down.
We're gonna
Well,
have to
it's
do
gonna be,
We're gonna have to do
it's
something. We
it's
gotta
snow
take-
removal and,
let's see detailed,
Yeah.
so that we're not
Did
speculating.
John call you regarding the monthly report? Has that spoken with him about it? Did he say he was gonna call you?
He did. He left a message the other day. I didn't get a chance to call him back. He said he would be happy to provide whatever,
Because he
whatever
said they
whatever he
capture the
thought would be
hours already
helpful.
as far as how they spend their time.
But that wasn't what we were discussed in terms of the monthly report, but we could certainly add that. It was more in
It
terms
was
of
more around the roads
projects.
and things like
Yeah.
that. He had already provided that to Lorraine.
All right, Kim, let's get to public buildings and grounds.
Well, before we get there, let's
Okay.
look at the overtime for police.
Okay.
We had 124.23 was the actual in 2011. And 2012, it's projected to be 126. Do we know where we're at right now for overtime?
We do.
Yeah, the first 4 months of the year, we were about 33,000. We extrapolated this afternoon to come up with 97. If we're on the same course that we've been at for the first 4 months, if we continue to have the need of overtime consumption, so to say, at the same rate, then it would be a minimum of 97.
So even if we round it up and we could do, maybe we could do a capping at 100,000 and save 26,000 there, which is basically what we're on track for. We just round it up a little bit. I think that might be an opportunity there to save
Yeah,
some funds.
I talked about that with Tom, so we'll,
Is that a realistic, looking at the first quarter, when first quarter is not your overtime, your vacation period? I mean, is that a realistic period to look at?
Well, it is to some extent. You do run into vacation issues which create more overtime, because the contract allows 2 people at one time to be off, but it also changed some things as far as some of the training that we were doing, that we were sending people for overtime. We're not doing it.
thank you.
So we're removing it in that aspect.
Thank you.
I mean, you know.
Discretionary training we're talking about.
No,
Mandatory.
well, it's discretionary, it's some mandatory.
Okay.
Where I'm trying to pull some of it in-house and try to rework
Good.
it in that aspect.
Good.
That's a positive move, too.
The issue is, things that are out of my control.
I
Like,
know.
you know,
And we talked about,
the fatal up here, things like that I can't. But
But
what
we
we did
talked
talk
about-
about is that if you guys base it at 100,
right,
we're gonna do everything we can to make sure that we stay within 100.
right.
If I
something
get jammed up,
catastrophic
I'm gonna have to
comes-
come to the meeting and say, this is what we got, where do you wanna
Well,
go?
you go to
This
Tom
is-
and Tom will
Exactly,
talk to him.
exactly, but
Okay.
All right,
So
I appreciate
let's
that.
cap it at 100, Maria.
And we can save, we could take 26,503 off of whatever that number is down there. I lost track of where we were at. Well, actually, we never really had a number because of the legal fees, right?
Yeah, no, I haven't even.
No, at least we are working through some of this so we can get this out of the way, so we can look at it again on Thursday night quickly.
Right.
And we know where we're at.
So you'll just mark that, you'll capture that 20,
Right, 26,503. Was there an actual change in legal though? Is that?
we started to and then
We
I
started
don't
to
think we
and then
finished it.
Came back and we're gonna come back to that.
So
Okay,
we're down to 59.8.
Well, I don't know, are you including any legal?
Well, I took we started out with the gap of 131.3. I took the 50 out because we adjusted legal by 50. We reduced it overall.
But are
by
we
50.
resolved on that?
No, we're not.
Well, we put money back up in the
We
other.
don't, yeah, the legal we were letting go for now.
No, we made the
Coming back,
adjustment.
I think that we're gonna have a problem with the legal because of the 2 litigations that we have going. And I'm not talking about labor litigations, I'm talking about the other ones.
Plus
And-
asphalt, plus all the other things. There's a lot of
You know,
invoices that come in every month from a lot of different attorneys that get through your legal budget here.
But they're the attorneys of record for the township. You're just not used to those attorneys.
No, I'm not used to having so many attorneys, so for me, when I see a big stack of professional bills come in, it's like, there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of activity.
Well, that's because we do all the planning that we need to do to keep the township.
So like what you're saying, we're starting to, we're not taking that 50 out right now.
Not just yet, we're gonna
131.
come back to that and kind of like look at some of the bills. I'm gonna look at some of the bills and make a suggestion based on actual looking at the bills and talking to the professionals that are the ones that we need to speak to.
So we're at
And-
$104,600.
Yeah, and we're thinking about the 93 over there. We took the 26,503 off the overtime. Okay, we're gonna look at the community day for DPW, which is minuscule in comparison to some of the other things.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
What does DPW do for community day?
Set up tables, set up tents.
Is that something that you could use community service workers for?
Yes, we have in the past.
Painting the paneling?
We have to, they're gonna have to do some of the work maybe during the day and use it on their
Well, they
regular time.
do some of the work during the day.
Right. Well, we're gonna have to figure it out.
But see, that's the type of thought process we need to. We just can't just continue to do things the way that we did them. You know, at least for this year. You know, to get us every dollar that we can. If there's a way of you know, having others contribute that's not going to cost the taxpayer money, then we should be exploring. We really should. Especially if it's going to result in, you know, no difference in community day.
Okay, now we're on to
So
page
let's
7.
wait. So let's look at that overtime, and let's quantify. Someone's going to quantify how much of it is tagged to community day, and then we're
For
going to
DPW.
for
Yeah.
DPW, and then we're
Take a
going
look at last year's.
to look at alternate solutions so that we can eliminate that portion of the overtime in its entirety, if we can.
We'll try.
We'll try.
Well, Lorraine, if you take Community Day and you take that Saturday, they're here at 7 in the morning and they're here till 6 o'clock at night. So it would be John Hill, Joe Mexi, and Barry Overly's overtime rate for
Do
Saturday.
they jump to double time after a certain amount of overtime?
40?
I mean, like after 4 hours or something overtime, do they go to double time?
I'll pull out.
That's
one of
their
time
contract.
cards. Yeah, I'll have to check the contract.
And then they're here the next day on Sunday.
And we get the prisoners every year for that
And they
also,
help with
so
that.
they've been using it for years.
Thank you.
They're here all day.
And are all 3 of them here that day?
I don't believe
so.
all 3. They just, you
Yeah,
have to have
2.
somebody with the prisoners because they're not allowed to just have
I
the
think it was
prisoners do
just
it.
one of them.
Right.
You know, they have a guard there, but, you know, but then I think at least one of them come in.
Just one comes in.
Is it the same day every year?
Yes,
Or-
Saturday and Sunday.
Okay, in what month?
September.
September.
You need to put it in your schedule.
Okay, are we on page 7 now? Mayor?
Okay.
Okay. Kim, we want to go to public buildings and grounds. What out of this, we know that we have to do something with the air conditioning, and we're going to air conditioning, heating for this particular room, but it's going to come out of capital?
It can, as long as it's gonna extend the life of the unit for 5 years, or if it's a whole new unit, it can definitely be capital.
Is there anything else on here, Kim, that's mandatorily done? Is mandatory?
Well, what I do is, for both the heating and air conditioning maintenance, I do the maintenance of that. Under the maintenance.
Is that a maintenance agreement coming with the new?
Yes.
So
I have a contractor, and I have a maintenance agreement with them.
Okay.
For repairs in spring and fall.
Right, but with the new stuff you're bringing in?
Yes.
We would not be spending that kind of money on an agreement right now, right? There's some
Well,
sort of.
for that, but it would still have a contract on there for, in the fall, I would have them come just like I would for the other unit, and come and service it for,
Do you know what that agreement is going to be? Is it 13.6?
I have an agreement. Now, this 13.6, under maintenance for public buildings and grounds, the maintenance, is this also the maintenance contract too that we have like on the copier? I mean, you have
The
postage,
copier
or you have
separate.
copier lease, But is that part of my maintenance contract too that I have on copiers?
The copier lease are the two leases, the one upstairs, the big one, and then the smaller one downstairs.
Right, and then we have,
I don't know anything about maintenance agreements, I just
Can
went by what was
you
signed
by
previously.
well, I
Well,
don't know
okay.
what your day's gonna be like between code and this now.
13.6 is high for maintenance of just the building, but then what I'm saying is, you know, if something breaks, but I mean, I'm hitting the big one here, you know,
Right.
and that's
What we
gonna,
talked about, going
that's
to
gonna be a
capital.
big one
Right.
there.
Mhm.
The other one is okay, and my other unit, so, I mean, I have the road garage, you know, that's an old heating unit and things like that. I mean, you could cut some down, I mean, you could take it down to 10. If
Do you
wanna
think
cut some-
45.5 is, you know the building and the grounds? You think that that's high? Being that we're getting a new unit in here? And putting it in capital?
We have listed heating and plumbing. Do you
Mhm.
know what that was?
Can you
for?
do, all right, we'll do some research on this?
I'm gonna talk with her, because I need to sit down and go through what they, I mean, what they had actually budgeted for last year and what was expended,
That
as to
column-
what accounts this is.
Yeah, we don't,
That column next to it was just what came out in the budget report and the detail for that department.
Mhm.
so you have to research it and look to make sure it's
I could
accurately
not-
posted.
Yeah, I can give you a detail of it to show by sub-account
Mhm.
which vendors and a brief description of what it was.
Because even like the $5,000
Yeah.
for the portable restrooms, I mean, we have the restrooms here from the municipal building, but the rest of them are parks and playgrounds. You know, that's the parks and playgrounds expense for the units that I have.
Yeah, and this is the portable, just one lease
April
at
through
5,000, right?
April through October, so that's the total
Did you,
amount.
you were supposed to go out for a new bid on those?
I
Did
had
you-
that.
You did?
I did.
And that's this number here?
That's the new number we have with Castle.
I don't know how much it was. I just based the items that I put in there, I just based on what was spent the actual
Okay.
prior year.
Okay, so that's not the number from
All right.
Castle.
So we might be able to
I don't
fine
think they would
tune
be
some
less.
of this based off of
Yeah,
Castle.
so can you take this part?
Castle septic,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
that that's all the portable restrooms though, because
Uh-huh.
under parks and recreation, there's no portable restrooms
Right.
listed there.
so that's put under buildings and grounds.
All right, look at what your Castle new bidder, or whatever it is that came in with, the costs associated with that, and to make sure that these numbers, because I think that we have a little wiggle room in 45.5.
Yeah, because the garbage can go down, because I know I'm saving money on garbage just for
Mhm.
the monthly rental.
Mhm. I know you looked at that and made that change this
For the
year.
monthly rental that we have of the thing there.
Trash.
So it was cheaper. So we'll go through some of these.